That's me in Seoul in a global Samsung commercial. Pretty cool, right? What you don't see is that I had to quarantine for 7 days in a tiny hotel room by myself. This is the story of how I booked a Samsung commercial during COVID. I auditioned in my apartment in Santa Monica. I submitted it and didn't think anything else of it. A week later, I am driving around in Venice. I think I'm going to dinner with some friends or something. And I get a text message from my commercial agent at the time. He said that I booked this commercial and it shoots in Korea. It's this amount of money and we just need you to confirm. And I pulled over. So I'm freaking out and my whole body is just like adrenaline. I read it and when you book a job, they send you like all the details of like the dates, the fitting, the price per day, and like any other details, the usage of where it's gonna go, how long it's gonna be up, stuff like that. I look at it and I'm like, okay, I pretty much need to do whatever I have to do to be able to go on this shoot. I text my program director and I tell him, hey, I booked a job. And I had already booked some smaller stuff at this point, and he has always been so supportive of me. And he was like, if you're booking jobs, you're booking jobs. And, that's a great sign. Okay, so at this point, this is great because I have the approval of my program director at my grad school that I really care about. So I didn't want to mess up. So then I text my parents and I tell them about this commercial and they're like, You're going to Korea? I should also mention that it was a Thursday evening that I got the text that I booked this, and I was supposed to leave on Sunday. Then at that point, it's green lights. I'm going to Korea. It's a 10-day shoot. I have no idea what we're gonna be shooting, but the audition was like, some yoga gear, working out, maybe going on a hike in Korea. So then I was off. I had packed my bags. It was Sunday. I went to the airport. I had my mask. I had all the things. And I get onto the plane and it is probably the biggest plane that I have ever taken. And there was like near nobody on this flight. The plane was way too big to be taking like a few people. And when I got on, they gave me little slippers because, in Korean culture, you wear a lot of slippers. And it was a really nice experience. The plane was just very high tech and really cool. And luckily, like I said, there was no people on the plane, so I could kind of lay down and take a nap, watch a movie. And the flight was about 13 hours long. So when we got there, the sun was setting and it was about to get dark. And there were a couple other actors that were booked on this job. I think there were 3 other people from LA on my flight. We got off the plane and we were like, okay, we're just all gonna be together. So we weren't like completely alone. But when we got off, the protocols were very strict. There were robots in the airport and they would scan you to see if you were wearing a mask, and then they would tell you if you weren't wearing a mask, put your mask on. And at this time, the COVID restrictions in Korea were very, very strict. We went through like several different checkpoints. I'm pretty sure we had to COVID test before we left LA. And then when we got there, we had to COVID test again. We meet up with the producer and he takes us all and we have to go to this kind of like quarantine site where there's like tents outside and they like checked us in, and we just kind of had to like go through a series of just checkpoints and checkpoints and checkpoints. So when we were going through the checkpoints, we had to sign basically a contract that said if we left our rooms, they would arrest us. So it was very strict and I was definitely not gonna break that. And then we got to the hotel and we all say goodbye to each other because we know that for 7 days we're not gonna see each other and we're actually not gonna see another human. I kind of just prayed that I had some kind of a view because I had a feeling that the room was going to be pretty small, but I was like, okay, there's just at least a window. That would be nice. I walk in and I see there's 2 beds, 2 twin beds. And so I push them together to make one mega bed. And the room is pretty small. But I kind of had pretty low expectations because I had no idea what this experience was going to be. And yeah, they told us that food was going to be dropped outside of our door. At the time, I was a very bad vegetarian. I just ate like bad vegetarian food. I would eat chips and like, I don't know, kind of anything like a teenager would eat. It was pretty much my diet at the time. So then after that first night, I woke up and I looked around the room and I was like, okay, this is gonna be my home for the next 7 days and I'm gonna need to keep myself busy. It was a pretty big like reality check, and it didn't really feel real because I had just basically got on a plane to a different country. It was dark out, so I couldn't really see anything, and then I'm just in this hotel room and then I'm locked in here. So I feel like there wasn't really a lot of time to process anything, but luckily I got my window, which was great. So my window, it had a view of the water and there were some boats and I could see the sunrise every morning. So I was so thankful for that, because if I didn't have a window and I had to be in this tiny room for 7 days, like I would have absolutely gone insane. I spent my days, I didn't have a lot of like schoolwork to do because we were finishing our final capstone and I had already put in my work for that. And so I was kind of done with school at that point. And so I just had to make myself busy. I brought some art supplies, I drew, I painted, I did some sketching, I was on my computer, I had Instagram, but I didn't really I didn't really want to be on Instagram that much because, I don't know, I just like felt like this was like a new experience and I really wanted to just feel all of the emotions of, I don't know, being quarantined and just experiencing, what it was, because it was just a completely new experience than anything that I had done before. And then pretty much spent my entire time doing is I watched movies. I watched movies, 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 I watched movies. In total, I watched 33 movies. And some of the things I watched were Taxi Driver, The Shining, Breakfast Club, Silence of the Lambs, Panic Room, The Butterfly Effect, which was beyond depressing, The Girl Next Door, Good Luck Chuck, which, side note, my manager executive produced that movie, which was pretty cool, Dallas Buyers Club, Borat, Soul, Sound of Metal. Like, I basically sat in my room and watched movies, and it was really awesome, honestly. My favorite activity is to sit on this couch, look at this TV, which you can't see, and watch really anything. Movies, TV shows. That is my happy place. I tried to work out a little bit. So I had a tiny little corner of my room and I did yoga, I did planks, I did squats. I tried to do, like anything to just get a little bit of exercise. I would literally just pace my room sometimes because I just had to get some kind of like cardio. And then I would look out the window and I would draw stuff, text my friends, FaceTime people. That was also a good one. And then there was the food situation. Like I mentioned before, they said that they were going to deliver 3 square meals a day right outside of our door. They also told us that if we left the door open for more than 30 seconds, it would like automatically close, which I always found weird because I don't think you can like remote control hotel doors, which maybe you could in this scenario. Like, I don't know, maybe this hotel was different and it was COVID, but I kind of feel like they also just told us that to scare us. So every day they would come and drop a little food package outside of our door and do a little knock. And then that's how we knew that our food was here, like little hamsters. And I would open the door and stick my hand out and grab the food and come in. And the food was, the fruits and stuff were fresh, but, it was packaged, who knows where. And like, we couldn't really pick anything. Like, I just got whatever the basic vegetarian food was. So it was kind of like, I would say it was like 2-3 notches up from like airplane food. Okay, so after watching all the movies, painting all the pictures, working out the best I could, talking to some friends, after the 7 days, we were finally out. We opened the door, we walked out, and we all met each other again, and we had to go to a fitting. Actually, I think the 7th day that evening we could leave. So that night, we went to a fitting. got in a car, went into this studio, and just started trying on a bunch of outfits. Luckily, we have that one day to go be a tourist. So we all get together, me and the other actors, and we get great Korean barbecue, we go shopping, we go to a museum, we go to these like ancient temples. We just like have a like fun day with these like random strangers that I just met. And yeah, it was really, really cool. We knew we had to make the most of it because we were going to leave in a few days. And we also were just so pent up in our hotel room. So we were like, oh my gosh, we just need to do anything to get out. I feel like I really found a new appreciation for just life in general and living and having space and being able to go outside, because it was just insane to literally be in a tiny room and not leave. So then it was the shoot day. And so we get into this taxi with the producer and we drive to like 30 minutes outside of Seoul, and we go in, and that's where the production is. And there's probably like 50 people in this production. Like it was pretty big. We all go to hair and makeup. There were other actors from New York there, so all of us were kind of doing different commercials. So they had all these different sets set up. The commercial I was in was with another girl, and we were both yogis doing yoga. So they had built this like very, earth toned yoga studio, put on our outfits that we tried on at the fitting, went into this yoga studio room, and there was a translator that would translate directions from the director, which was really interesting. I had never been directed through a translator before or by somebody who wasn't speaking English. So that was just a cool new experience. And yeah, the shoot was honestly really, really, really simple. And it was just so crazy that we had to quarantine for 7 days to do this very small, simple shoot. And something crazy that I learned, and this is just pure coincidence, 2 days after we left Korea, they lifted all of their quarantining laws. So if the shoot was just a couple days later, we would not have had to quarantine at all. So yeah, that is the story of how I booked a global Samsung campaign in COVID and what I had to go through to do the job. From being in my apartment in Santa Monica, self-taping myself doing yoga, to hearing nothing, to getting a text from my agent that I booked it, to getting a work visa the next day, to leaving for Korea on that Sunday, to quarantining in a tiny hotel room and watching 33 movies. Maybe I should be embarrassed about that, but honestly, I think it's badass. To going to a fitting, to doing the shoot, and then getting back on a plane and flying back to Los Angeles. It was an insane experience, but I will never forget it. And here is the final spot. Like and subscribe, and I will see you soon.